Hi everyone and welcome to the Learning Ladder. Today I am doing a look inside Spelling You See. I had a request to do this and also explain how we use it. So the pack we purchased had the Instructor handbook, part 1 book, part 2 book, and then it also came with some erasable, Crayola erasable colour pencils. Okay, so in the instructor's guide it has all the different information about the different levels that they have, and then it talks about the approach and the theory behind Spelling You See. So it has all the lessons, instructions in here. It also has some additional resources, a weekly activity guide, and then, as I said, it explains to you the 5 developmental stages of spelling, the curriculum sequence, placement and guidelines. So it is actually very useful. So we've got the philosophy for several pages, and I think it's really important to read this, the philosophy of why they do it the way they do. It really helps you understand when you're doing the Spelling You See. And I definitely think, well, it came with the pack, but had it not, I would have wanted to buy it. The instructor guide. So the levels are as follows. A is Listen and Write, B is Jack and Jill, C is Wild Tales, D is Americana, E is American Spirit, F is Ancient Achievement, and G is Modern Milestones. And they do have a placement test for you to check which level your child should fit into. It is a 36-week curriculum, and it explains to you that you need your colour pencils, specifically the blue, green, yellow, pink, red, purple and orange. Those are the ones you mainly use, but you get obviously the whole pack. Now, depending on your instructor guide, it'll then start going into the lessons. So it'll give you the instructions for each lesson, what you're doing, why you're doing it, is in the philosophy, and away you go. So it's got all the instructions for each of the lessons in the front. Then it's got your dictation passages, which I always find really helpful that it's here. So basically I'll just grab this book out when it's dictation day, and then I can dictate it from here, rather than trying to remember what it was. So all the weeks are here. So these are all the different dictation passages that they'll do. And then it's also got the answer key as well, which is also really helpful too, particularly when you, not so much when it's just one colour that you're highlighting, but once you're getting further along, you're highlighting various things. So it's helpful to have the answer key. As you can see, there's quite a lot there. So it's nice to have the answer key that you can just quickly check off what they were supposed to be marking that day. Okay, so there is book 1 and book 2. We have finished book 1, so I'm not going to show you inside that one. I think there's one lesson left in here that we didn't do. So I'll show you that one, and then I'll show you more inside book 2. Okay, so it goes 18A, B, C, D, and E. At the top, it'll tell you what you're supposed to be doing. So what they're looking for, what they're supposed to be marking. So in this case, they're marking vowel trunks in yellow, consonant trunks in blue, bossy R trunks in purple, and endings. And it'll have the colours here, so they know what colours they're supposed to be using. Then you'll read the passage to them, or they can read it too, but obviously it does say that you're supposed to read it together, and that's important, slowly, so that they can see the words and everything else. And then you set them free to do all their markings, and then obviously you've got the answer key to check, help them if necessary. And at the beginning, obviously, you are going to help them a lot more, because often they've never even thought about this, which letters have a PH in, which letters have an AR in. So you will likely need to help them a lot at the beginning. But as they get through the book, I found my daughter can mark it by herself, and I'll just check afterwards. It depends on age completely. My daughter's in 3rd grade. If you're doing this with the 1st grader, then you're probably going to have to stay with them a lot more while they're doing their initial markings. So she marks it, then I'll check that she's done it correctly, and then she'll start her writing. So basically each day it's a different section of the story that they're writing. Well, not a story, but a different section of the piece of copywork that they're writing. So they will write it here, and then again they will use their colour pencils to mark off any chunks from the list onto this side. Next day, same thing. We'll mark the story again. We'll have a different section of the story to write. I keep saying story, but it's the copywork piece. C, same thing. Marking, writing again, but a different section. Moving on to D. D's a different day in book 1. So what you'll do is you'll mark it as usual. I read, then mark as usual. But on this day, it's the no rule day. My daughter loved this one. You draw a picture of the story or a story and write your own story. So she never drew the picture of whatever this story was. She always wrote her own story and drew her own picture, and she loved that day. Okay, now E is the last day where they're going to do their dictation. So they're going to read it, mark it as required, and then they're going to turn over the page, and you're going to take your instructor guide with the correct dictation section and dictate it to them as they write it. Take your time. They can ask for help if they need it. It's much more important that they ask for help as opposed to, just plodding along, because the brain remembers what you write. So you want them as much as possible to note that they've done it incorrectly and change it at the time. But it's got to be a positive thing. It's not a bad thing to ask for help. It's not a bad thing to mark it, write it wrong. It's the point of it is that we're learning how to write it correctly. So it's not, oh my goodness, you've marked that, you've wrote that incorrectly. It's okay, we're going to try that one again, and tell them how to spell it, and then they can write it correctly. And at the end you can put how many words they spelt correctly, as opposed to, well, you got 10 wrong. No, it's how many words they spelt correctly, and that's really important. Particularly I think with spelling, positive reinforcement goes a long way. Okay, now we're into part 2. My daughter crossed it off and wrote fun tales because she just liked this one, this curriculum. So I'll show you into it because we've already started this one, so I'll find a place we haven't written on. So it does increase with progression, obviously, as you go through, the amount of things they have to mark, as I said. So at the beginning, in book 1, they're generally either marking vowel chunks or consonant chunks, and as the weeks go on, they'll start to add more. So they're not doing all of these things at one time in the first book. It is a gradual process, and it's even a gradual process in the second book. First they'll do vowel chunks again, then they'll do consonant chunks, then they'll do vowel and consonant chunks, then they'll add something else. So this is 31C, and it tells you at the top what they're actually going to be marking. So in this one, section 1, it's all patterns. In this one, 28A, it's vowel, consonant, and bossy R plus tricky Y guy. So you'll know at the top what they're actually marking as well, so you can talk about that too. So you read the instructions. Now it'll tell you vowel chunks in yellow, consonant chunks in blue, bossy R in purple, tricky Y guy. Now he is not coloured here, so there is a lesson on the tricky Y guy in book 1, so they know what they're supposed to be looking for when they get to this point anyway. But tricky Y guy will be green, so they'll have to get the green pencil out even though it's not colour coded here. They also do that for silent letters too. Orange is not marked here, but you've read the instructions. At this point, by this point in the book, they'll know when you say to them you need to do your silent letters too in orange, they'll know what you mean because they've done it several times. It does repeat. It's it does bring back different concepts and everything else. It builds on it each time. So by this point they'll know exactly about tricky Y guy and silent letter orange. So they'll read the passage again, you'll read it with them, they'll mark them, and then the same principle is for the first few lessons. They'll write a different section of it. However, when they get to D in book 2, it's slightly different. So there are words for them to use that's been picked out specifically from their own story. So write your own sentence about a sea otter, use some words from the list to help you. Draw a picture if you wish. So it's wanting them to incorporate these words, which are obviously from here, into their piece on the no rule day, which is different than the first part 1 because you could just write what you wanted to. And then it's the same principle for the next lesson. You mark them again and then they do their dictation. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you've got any more questions about it, let me know. We have really enjoyed it this year. I definitely think it's a great curriculum. We will not be doing it again next year, not because I don't like it or anything else. It's just this was the level that I wanted to focus on with her. The wild tales. After that, I don't think we need to. We can do our spelling through other methods. But for us this year, this was absolutely fantastic. It really, really built on her spelling so much. And I can't recommend level C enough. I haven't done any of the other levels, so I can't speak on those. But C was fantastic for us. So that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.